Welcome back to the Atheniano Show. To all that celebrate, I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving on Thursday. Um, and as we come to the end of this Thanksgiving weekend, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I'm thankful for. Now, on Thursday, I put out a poll on my Instagram, a very small poll, but roughly the question was, what are you most thankful for? And the four options were family, friends, nation, and God, with the breakdown roughly being 50% family and roughly 25 each on uh, friends and God. Now, today I want to talk about why I'm grateful for all four. And I'm going to start with the first family vacation that I remember in the US. It was in 2008, right around the Beijing Olympics. And I remember very distinctly following throughout that vacation um, Michael Phelps's 8 gold medal run and being incredibly excited by it and feeling incredibly patriotic. But also along that vacation, it started. We flew out to Phoenix, Arizona. Then we did a driving trip, the first real driving trip that I can remember as doing as a family. Um, Hours and hours and hours in the car together as a family. One of the fondest memories I have um, of just family time. But also, I remember seeing for the first time and really experiencing the vastness of the Western United States and just falling in love with the nature. And I remember we started in Arizona, then we drove to Utah, then we drove to Colorado, then we drove to New Mexico, then Texas, and saw where my family is buried and where my grandmother is from. And then we drove to Oklahoma, where my mom was born, and saw her house and got to experience that. And then we drove to, we drove to Louisiana. Um, and then we drove to Mississippi, which is where my grandmother currently lives in Jackson. And I remember watching from her house very distinctly Michael Phelps get that 8 gold medal and going nuts. It was one of the most exciting times of my life. Um, And so, at that time, I really just this vacation just to me exemplified my love for my country and how grateful I am to be born in the US and have all these opportunities and these so many great things to see. I remember in Utah we saw Lake Powell, in Colorado we saw the mountains, in uh in New Mexico we saw the Badlands and the valleys. Um and just driving on Route 66, one of the most patriotic, but also just um, aesthetically pleasing trips I've ever done. And I remember we got to really experience, the southern and the western United States for the first time, Um, Sonic, for those of you who know what I'm talking about, played a big part, and especially those slushies and the tater tots, a big part of that vacation. Um, So, that vacation really exemplified for me why I'm grateful for nation and family. That was the time where my sisters and I spent, as I said, hours and hours and hours in the back seat of a car, smushed, and we would just remember we would fight, we would laugh, we would talk, we would watch movies. It was a really, really, really great bonding experience and one that I'll remember for a very long time. Um, and one of the key moments of this trip was when we flew to Phoenix, and we arrived at a little past midnight, and it was still like 105 degrees, as Phoenix is, as Arizona is. And the next day, we kind of set out to see the Grand Canyon. Um, Now, I think most of you know what the Grand Canyon is. It's this vast canyon that used to be a body of water, but dried out, and it's what it says, the Grand Canyon. I remember arriving. It was so just majestic and large, and um, there was so much that amazed me about it. And I remember as we kind of arrived in the moments, you saw a bald eagle fly and kind of swoop down in the canyon and fly out. And it was incredibly just patriotic moment, as I said, for me, but it also reminded me of the just wildness of nature and how much I appreciated being in a country that has that. Um, but one of the most memorable things about that was um, when we got to the Grand Canyon, my sister fell sick very quickly after. She had a large stomach ache, and we had to kind of take her to the hospital and go back to the hotel very quickly. Um, and so we didn't really end up seeing that much or seeing as much as we had hoped to. It was kind of and it kind of became this running joke. Not joke, but thing in this family, like, man, I'd really love to go back to the Grand Canyon and really experience it in full. Really experience the whole thing because we missed so much of it. Because my younger sister, got ill. Um, and so, that's just something we talk about a lot as a family. And, so that's why I'm grateful for family and nation. Um, Now I have to be honest, I didn't just start thinking about this trip in the context of this video, um, because I was thinking about things that link family um, and nation together and why I'm grateful. Because you see, the university that I met, the Edinburgh University, has kind of partnered very closely with universities in and communities in Ukraine. And our library is doing this nice project where they kind of highlight a bunch of Ukrainian students who are going to school and growing up during the war and have to go through all these experiences. And as an example, in one of my courses, we're doing a Zoom uh, interview panel with a bunch of Ukrainian students studying in Kiev. And so there's a lot of strong links between our two universities and a lot of cool things. And just outside the library entrance, they have some like kind of plaques or posters that show little descriptions about Ukrainian students, university students. I remember walking by. It was about, I think it was a week ago, or, give or take, Monday, Sunday before Thanksgiving. I remember walking by, and I didn't read the whole thing. I just kind of saw something at the glance of my eye, and it said, um, she wanted to travel the world one day and see the Grand Canyon. And I remember that, I didn't know why, but that sentence, and see the Grand Canyon, really struck a nerve with me. It really affected me. You know, I couldn't stop thinking about that. I was like, man, this person wants to see the Grand Canyon from Ukraine. Really? That was such an integral part of my life and my memory. Um, and it hit me hard to kind of uh to hear that from a Ukrainian student, from a young Ukrainian girl. And it made me feel very connected to her in a weird way because I didn't know her at all. I don't know her. I have no connection to her, and yet the fact that she wants to see the Grand Canyon so badly, which to me is kind of like coming from outside the US, it's like, why? Why the Grand Canyon? New York, I can understand. LA, I can understand. Um, but the Grand Canyon in Arizona, really? But it stuck with me. It stuck with me, and it made me think back to that time, that the vacation that I was just telling you about, and my experiences in the Grand Canyon, and kind of how my family, myself, really want to go back there and see the Grand Canyon. So it brought me together with this person. Um, and I think that's something that's I'm really grateful for. I really am, because so many people in this world that you can have so many differences with and grow up in completely different circumstances, and in completely different ways, and even speak completely different languages. You can bond or share something that connects you in a really weird way. And I think that's something that um, is true about our friends too. Our friends grow up in different households. Our friends have different lives than us, come from different places, often speak different languages, mother tongues, and yet we find common ground because our experiences interlink in some aspect. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. And I'm just really grateful that the world was kind of made in that way, that in obscure circumstances, we can be linked with one another through our experiences, that our path can start in completely different ways and even take different turns, different twists, but at some point they may connect, and that binds us together. And I thought there was something really powerful about that, and something that makes me really grateful for the people in my life and the friends that I have, and the fact that we were brought together by these shared things. So, that sentence, and see the Grand Canyon, makes me really grateful for all the friends that I have and all the things that have brought me to my friends. Really am grateful for that. Okay. Um, Now here's a thing that I haven't told you about this statement. So I kind of read and see the Grand Canyon. I told you that affected me a lot, but quickly after I kind of read the full statement, and I'll read it to you now. This was outside our library. Alexandra was a student activist who dreamed of a diplomatic career. She wanted to travel the world one day and see the Grand Canyon. She loved makeup and photography, enjoyed learning English, and wanted to pick up Turkish and Spanish. She liked to take care of homeless animals, always bringing food for them. A side note, I love that. I have a really soft spot for animals, and anytime I see a homeless person with their dog, or I see a stray dog, I just, my heart breaks, and I whatever change I have in my pocket, I feel like I have to give it. It's the most effective tool, in my opinion, for homeless people to get money, is to have a dog with them, because it just breaks my heart. And shelters too. I've that's a cause that I really do believe in. So I really applaud her for that. Okay. And then, new paragraph. Alexandra was killed by the Russian missile attack on Vinnytsia on July 14th, 2022. She was on her way to a driving lesson. Um, Now, after reading that last sentence, the part about the Grand Canyon hit me even harder. Um, because something that I had just taken for granted, right? I'd already seen the Grand Canyon and the impact that it had on my life, and the desire to go back. I feel so lucky, so lucky. Like, I don't deserve to just have seen the Grand Canyon. If this person wanted to see the Grand Canyon, and that was her like thing that she wanted to see, and she couldn't because she was killed at 18, um, just going about her day. That really, um, I don't know what to make of that. It puts me in a position where I feel incredibly blessed and grateful to be in the position that I am, and to have the safety, to go to school, to have taken driving lessons, to get a driver's license, to go to a school in a foreign country, to have all these opportunities. Um, but at the same time, it makes me feel uneasy because, you know, what kind of world are we living in, right? When somebody like this, who just student activist, who wants to see the Grand Canyon, wanted to travel the world, loves makeup, photography, learning English, wants to learn Turkish and Spanish. I too love learning languages, and just has taken care of homeless dogs. Why does she deserve to be killed, right? Somebody who's just force for good, as far as I can tell. You know, what kind of world is it, right? That somebody like that is killed. And obviously, I would be very short-sighted, right? If I said, okay, this is like the one example, right? Because for every Alexandras, our full name is Alexandra Borivska, um, there's probably thousands, millions, maybe even billions, of her, right? Of people like her who are killed in these circumstances. Um, and so it's just, I don't, that, and here comes the tough part is God, right? Um, how do you, how do you stay grateful for somebody that that you believe is the creator of the world? And through him, all things are possible. Um, right? You really believe that he has the power to make the world a better place. And end this stuff. How do you make sense? Um, how do you make sense of a thing like this? Uh, and I'm struggling a lot to kind of come up with the answer to this question. Um, and I still don't have it. I still don't know. Um, but the best thing I can do is say two things. The first is this: if you believe in God, which I do, you believe that there's a heaven. You believe that this world is not the end, right? And I've been very open about my faith on this channel. Um, and so I really do believe that no matter how terrible and sad it is that Alexandra was taken from this world too soon and never got to see the Grand Canyon, I really do believe uh, that she's in a good place now. I have to believe that. Um, and so I'm grateful for God that He keeps our lives continuing, and doesn't let it end. And the second part of this, it's a little more complicated, is this: the fact that somebody like Alexandra, who I'll show her picture now, the fact that she was only on this earth for 18 years and died in a missile strike in Donetsk, Ukraine. And I'm Athenianos, who's 22 and born and raised in New York City and now living in Edinburgh. And I'm totally away from the war. And probably, if this circumstance hadn't happened, would have no reason for knowing who this person is and was. But yet, it's because of the impact that other people are able to leave on each other, right? That the legacy and the impact that Alexandra Borivska in her 18 years has had, if it's just me, right, who's affected by her life, if it's just me, that's something beautiful in itself. Now, I suspect that many of you listening, and many who haven't listened but have seen her poster, feel the same thing. Feel inspired, but also taken back and sad for her, but also incredibly, I don't know what the word is, but the fact that her legacy and the things she's done in her life continues to live on this earth, both in heaven, but also on this earth, carried on through her actions, memories of her, and shared all across the world. And I hope spread more with this video. That's something really powerful. And maybe I haven't done the best job of explaining it. But I know this seems small, right? I know it's very small, and it seems in the grand scheme of things, why is this a reason to be grateful? A girl who's 18, who loved the world, loved animals, wanted to see the Grand Canyon, gets killed at 18. Why is this a good thing? Why is any kind of good, how can you make good of the situation, right? So what if her legacy lives on? She still died. Surely the legacy thing doesn't outweigh her dying, and I get it. And I agree. But the fact that in these terrible situations that we can still remember her, appreciate her, and connect with her as I can through the Grand Canyon, something so trivial, and remember her now. Remember her life. I think that's something really powerful. And frankly, that could only happen if, that existed. And so I'm grateful to live in that world, and grateful that people can live on in multiple ways and connect with people and make people feel empathy and make people value their own lives in new ways, right? Her story has made me value this trip in a whole new way. The trip that I took to the Grand Canyon. So I thank her. I thank her so much for her life. I really do. I know that's a weird thing to say, and that may sound odd to you, but I am incredibly grateful for her and her life. And it's terrible, and I wouldn't wish on anything that she's dead. But I am incredibly grateful for her life. And I'm grateful that we live in a world where that can be shared and live on, and that eternal flame can still burn. And so I'm grateful to be surrounded by people who love each other and care about each other and have dreams and ambitions, and a world where we can remember each other past our death and live past our death. And it's for those reasons that I'm grateful. That I'm incredibly grateful for this world and for God and our Creator. And so with that, I just want to say Happy Thanksgiving to you all. I hope you remember to continuously, not just on Thanksgiving, but every day, remember why you are grateful. Why you are grateful, and the value of life, and the things that bring us together. So keep your eyes open. Look out. Remember why you're grateful. Remember the value of each and every action that you do. Remember the time that you spend with your family, because it's not going to last forever. Remember the moments you have. Remember the friends you have. Cherish the time you have with friends. The time you spend with them. Right? Remember that. And even when you fall out of contact with the friend or friends, remember that the time you had was great, and stay grateful for those things, and don't let them die. And stay grateful for other people, even that you never met before, in their lives. And stay grateful for your nation, and the country you're born in, and the circumstances that you were in. Take a note of that. And most of all, be grateful for your existence, and the world that you live in, and the thing that connects us, and the fact that our life doesn't stop here. It's only a chapter. And that our legacies continue to live on even after our death. And continue to enforce that by remembering those you've lost and being grateful for the time they've had on the earth. And so with that, I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Happy Thanksgiving weekend. Um, I feel weird saying subscribe, but if you like this video, please hit that subscribe button. And I hope to see you soon. If you saw, I put out a video on my thoughts on Israel-Palestine. If you haven't watched it, you should go check it out. And then also I have another video coming up soon. And then I'll be starting my reaction to a Bob Dylan album pretty soon too. So yeah, so long, and see you guys next time. Bye-bye.